Buddhism is a world religion founded by the Buddha in ancient India. Buddhists seek wisdom, meaning, inner peace, and freedom from greed, hatred, and ignorance. Mutually sustaining life, a Buddhist call to a troubled world.
The world is like a lotus pond filled with many varieties of the plant. There are blossoms of many different tints. Some are white, some pink, some blue, some yellow. Some grow under the water, some spread their leaves on the water, and some raise their leaves above the water.
On today's show, we would like to take a break from our ongoing discussion of the Buddha's teachings to discuss the topic of interreligious dialogue, particularly between Buddhists and Christians. Before introducing our guest, Reverend Kodo Matsunami, who joined us previously, I'd like to say a few words about this topic. There has been no greater time than today for interreligious dialogue, for virtually all the religions of the world currently exist in the United States. As mentioned previously, Buddhism alone has at least 80 different schools in Los Angeles. In many communities, we find numerous religions that do not fall within Jewish Christian traditions. Please note, by the way, that I did not say Judeo-Christian, a term which I discovered during my involvement in interreligious dialogue that Christian coined, but one that some Jews do not subscribe to. Instead, they prefer Jewish and Christian traditions. The same goes when referring to the Old Testament, whereby the Hebrew Bible is preferred. It is on account of this growing diversity that numerous communities have interreligious associations. When I served as a temple priest, I became a member of Interfaith Council comprised of clergies of that area. If religious pluralism marks such communities, then the same can be said for families. With greater degree of intermarriages, our families are no longer of the same faith. It is no longer uncommon for families to have Christians, Jews, Muslims, and Buddhists among their members. This situation surely calls for a need for people to be more aware of each other's religious beliefs and practices. Greater understanding is also needed on a national and global level. For example, there exists an active academic group called the Society of Buddhist Christian Studies, comprised of about 400 members, which meets annually and publishes a journal. And there is also the International Buddhist Christian Theological Encounter, which has met annually for 2-3 days for the past 20 years. In the past, the themes at these gatherings have centered on doctrinal topics such as the nature of ultimate truth and religious practices, but have shifted to social issues such as the environment, violence, and consumerism. At interreligious gatherings, I am reminded of the World Parliament of Religions that took place in Chicago in 1993, 100 years after the epoch-making gathering in 1893. It was at that first meeting over 100 years ago where impressive speeches by Buddhist representatives such as Anagarika Dharmapala from Sri Lanka and Shaku Soen from Japan helped to put Buddhism on the map in the eyes of many Americans. More recently, I was fortunate enough to participate in the Day of Prayer, which was convened by Pope John Paul II, partly in response to the tragic events of September 11th. It was held in the Italian city of Assisi, the home of St. Francis, known the world over as a man of peace. I was able to meet representatives of many religions, including the Pope, which made me truly realize that we really do live in a world filled with people of many different religions. When I met the Pope, though very briefly, I shook his hand and told him, having come to Assisi, I feel compelled to work harder for peace. The Pope then nodded with a firm grip and gesture of affirmation. If I had more time, I wanted to share with him the famous Buddhist statement about a solution for peace from the well-known scripture, Dhammapada. It states, hatred is not overcome by hatred. Hatred is overcome only by abandoning hatred. I would like to welcome today's guest, Reverend Kodo Matsunami. There is no better person to explore today's topic than Reverend Matsunami, a Jodoshu priest, who has graciously agreed to join us again. Reverend Matsunami is active in interreligious conferences, and whenever I talk to him, it seems that he's either going or has just returned from Rome or New York as a frequent participant in interreligious functions. I also have come to learn that he will soon be departing for South America for another conference. Well, Reverend Matsunami, it's great to have you back, and today we'll have you share with us your experiences in interreligious dialogue. You know, you've been to many of these, and what have been your thoughts and impressions in having attended some of these conferences?
Well, I've been attended so many interfaith and gatherings, but I believe that the sharing and understanding of such interfaith gatherings are very important, and it would break through the barrier that the religions assume to have. We can no longer afford to be ignorant about others.
That's right. I think so too, yeah.
Also, I feel that the present worldwide crisis, which are happening in everywhere, particularly in the Middle East, are not directly caused by religious differences, but rather by national, ethnic, and social differences. The real roots of the conflicts are based on these non-religious differences, whereby these various groups happen to be of different religions. I must admit that some religious leaders reinforce the differences without helping to bring about reconciliation and peace among these groups. That's why people of various faiths must work together to understand each other.
Now, which of the conferences that you've attended stands out most in your mind?
Well, a few years ago, I was privileged to attend the Religious Summit Conference held at Vatican, where I met many leaders of different faiths, namely Roman Catholics, Protestant, Islam, Jewish, Hindu, and Sikh. And I was fortunate to exchange our ideas with them on pertinent problems and issues for world peace. They are all good people with profound thoughts. Even though, as one may expect, ideas or standpoint differ slightly on the different issues, but we have to reach to a common understanding.
Now, you as a Buddhist, what can you learn from attending these conferences?
Well, let me say, as a Buddhist, I learn a lot from other religions, and I fully respect from at the bottom of my heart. I believe that the differences of religious creeds or teachings are not at all important. What matters most is following the path of being who and what we are. What matters is being compassionate and not clinging to the idea that we alone know the truth and are superior to others.
Now, what do you think Buddhism can offer to the world?
Yes, I think according to Buddhism that our world is nothing but the manifestation of oneness of life, where all beings, animate or inanimate, exist interdependently. We are just like small icebergs sticking out from the surface of the ocean. Yet, we are actually under the surface of the ocean. The recent discovery of DNA, which is latent in every sentient being, has proven this point. However, people impose distinctions and separate what is mine from what is not mine.
That's true, yeah.
So this discrimination arises from an attachment in man called blind craving, which differentiates oneness from the plurality of manyness. Consequently, conflicts, misunderstanding, or frictions arise within people themselves. From blind craving comes a conscious self, affirming a fundamental selfishness. And since people go against oneness by responding to the blind craving within themselves, they create the illusory world of manyness, which is not the real world, but rather a world created by their own imagination. Therefore, Buddhism refutes such an egocentric habit of separation and confrontation. Instead, it teaches that our true nature is empty, dynamic, infinite, unifying, pervading, and inherent. I believe that by pointing out the basic flaws in the way we view each other and the world, Buddhism can contribute addressing the global crisis and confronting our society and the world wide.
Well, you know, I also like the word oneness that you just talked about.
Yes.
So perhaps let us continue, you and I,
Yes.
and hopefully other Buddhists as well,
Yes.
to attend these interreligious faith
That's right.
conferences.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for your time, sharing with us your precious experiences with us, and I really appreciate your input.
Okay. Thank you.
We hope that all of you will consider what we have talked about today and be open to other religions and beliefs. Join us next week as we explore the 4 marks of existence, another fundamental teaching of Buddhism.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information.